can I please have a motion to return to open session?
So moved.
Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Anna,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Carla,
Yes.
Renee, Brianna,
Yes.
Amy.
Yes.
We have, motion carries 6-0.
Okay. So the open session of the September 28th, 2023 governing meeting will now come to order. Laura, will you please call the roll?
Anna,
Here.
Corey,
Here.
Gary,
Here.
Carla,
Here.
Renee, Brianna,
Here.
Amy.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you. And then for open ceremony, Dr. Maychek, would you like to introduce?
Thank you, Ms. Chang. So for our pledge tonight, I have invited one of our outstanding teachers, Margarita Castrejón, to come and lead us in the pledge with some of her students. And so she will, because we're observing National Hispanic Heritage Month across our district. And so Ms. Castrejón agreed to come and lead us in the pledge in Spanish with some of our students, and she will introduce them. We can move them.
Hello?
It's not very loud.
Okay, so thank you all for being here. I am Ms. Castrejón, and these are my students within our dual language program. We have Sean Avante, we have Aldo Perez, Jolanis Diaz Ramos, and Molly Reed. These are ranging students from 6th to 8th grade. So they will be leading the pledge for us today in Espanol.
Prometo lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república a la que representa una nación bajo Dios indivisible con libertad y justicia para todos.
We have some certificates. Sorry.
Yeah.
Next time, I'm going to bring the bathroom. I'm with you.
A study.
Jolanis
A study.
Diaz
I
Ramos.
have one.
Here.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Did Brooke want a group picture?
Oh, did you want a picture?
Do you want a group picture with them all?
So one of the pieces that I asked Margarita to talk about while she was here was we've got such a push in our new strategic plan for belonging and engagement and making sure that everyone's got a place. And so Margarita is actually our culture and climate coordinator at the middle school, and I asked her to spend a little bit of time talking about some of the things that she's working on in that role.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all, and yes, Dr. Maychek, thank you for the introduction. So my name is Margarita Castrejón, and just a quick introduction. My name is Margarita Castrejón. I am a Woodland Middle School alumni. This is my 4th year as a Spanish language arts teacher within our dual language program, and I am currently working towards my Master's of Education in Language Culture and Curriculum. Some of the objectives and goals that I'd like to share under my position. Some objectives I have here for the next 2 years as a timeline is increasing our parent and family engagement within our school building, increasing our staff engagement, and fostering positive, strong, and authentic relationships. Some of our goals looks like organizing a parent university workshop to provide families with the tools to help support and navigate their child's learning. I would like to promote positive engagement between our staff and student body, and I would like to promote student-centered lens on our following school events. One of the ways that we are working on this is I am taking on the role of being the leader along with Anna Rumi for the Positive Culture Club that last year Kathy Eddy had the privilege to start, and I am going to attempt to fill in her shoes. And what this club is about is a club of 6th through 8th grade students that are committed to being part of the change that we want to see at Woodland. We want to emphasize in this club and amplify and value our student voice, and with the help of our students, we can work towards creating a sense of belonging for all. For this club, we strive to cultivate a safe space to have student opinions, their values, and their ideas centered into Woodland Middle School. Some of our discussions, as of lately, these past few weeks, we meet every Thursday, and we have had our discussions centered around school environment, bullying, promoting respect to one another. We've also discussed school event ideas and ways to promote community building. Some fun projects that we have coming up is deciding new and fun Spirit Day themes for the following, for later on in the year, and promoting a Fall Friday Fun event that will be going on at the Woodland Middle School by creating posters and advocating for the event, so that should be super exciting. We have also the continuation of our weekly highlights. For those who don't know, thank you to Kathleen Eddy for leaving a great example of what our students enjoy to see weekly. Information that's very important, such as Students of the Week, highlighting them and the great things that they're achieving throughout the week, and the school building, our lunch menu, fun facts, sports announcements, weekly club meetings, staff highlights of the week. Some of the additions that I've decided to take on with Anna Rumi is incorporating bilingual slides within the weekly highlights. We understand the demographics that we're working with, so we want to make sure that we're catering to all of our students and allowing them for them to see these slides in both English and Spanish. We're also providing some printed copies of the Students of the Week so that we can go along and share those with the team and the school body, so that they get to see the students around the building that are making great impacts. So these are just some examples of the ways that we have tried to add on to our school highlight weekly slides. As you can see, we want to go ahead and emphasize that English is highlighted in blue and Spanish is highlighted in green, offering the lunch menu for our students in both English and Spanish, adding in motivational quotes in both languages, and hopefully going along with this for the rest of the year so that all students, even those who aren't familiar with English, are able to also see what's going on at school. So learning and acknowledging and creating the space for all of our differences and our similarities in cultures and traditions are very important factors that can help bring a sense of belongingness and unity at Woodland Middle School. So some of the projects that we're currently working on under my role is I'm gathering some interviews from some students at our Woodland Middle School building to highlight and share their experiences in relation to Hispanic Heritage Month. Another project that I've been working on is promoting a building-wide celebration in spirit of honoring Hispanic Heritage Month. So as you can see, I've included some pictures of, this was actually today, some of our students at the Positive Culture Club working on creating flyers to help post around the school building to help promote the Fall Friday Fun Day. And then to the bottom right, you guys can see the Hispanic Heritage Month flyer with the Spirit Week that includes, honoring some of our traditions and traditional wear and getting all students involved. So I know one of the frequently asked questions when presenting this project was, well, can our students who don't identify as Latinos or Hispanos participate in this? And the answer was a big, bold yes. The idea around this Hispanic Heritage Month celebration was to allow for all students to take part in, and they did not necessarily need to identify as Latino or Hispano. This was a chance for them to see some of the traditions and values that are shared, and an opportunity to learn and learn our similarities between one another. So collaboration is key in my role, and I'm absolutely delighted to have the privilege to work alongside with Catherine Trigas, who's our Dean of Student Culture, and Stephanie Schultz, who I've been in collaboration with. She's the PBIS team leader, and all of our staff at Woodland Middle School, who has opened their arms and ideas and everything that they have to bring to the board. So I wanted to just thank and acknowledge all of the staff and leaders in our building, that without their efforts, their dedication, their time, and their passion towards this would be incredibly difficult to accomplish. So I just want to say thank you and gracias for having me here tonight.
Thank you. Next, we are going to observe a moment of silence in honor of recently deceased 8th grade social studies teacher, Dr. Scott Mitchell. Scott worked for Woodland School District for 20 years, and the sudden passing of Dr. Mitchell has left a hole in many colleagues and students' hearts. Our thoughts and prayers are with Scott's family and friends as they navigate the loss of a wonderful human being. Let us please take a moment of silence to honor Scott. Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, can we move policies out of consent agenda for action items separately? I have some questions.
Okay. Let's see, I just want to make sure I put this in the right place. So we will add that as an action item D. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Take it out of 12.
I'm going to move it from 12. Okay. We will do that. So do we need to vote, or should we withdraw the motion? How do we? Who made the motion?
I made the motion.
Do you want to withdraw, and then we'll have a motion to approve it as amended?
Sure.
Okay.
I will withdraw the motion.
Okay. Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion? And can we have a roll call vote, please?
Corey,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Carla,
Aye.
Renee, Brianna,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Anna.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. So the first item we have is the public hearing on the budget. Let the record reflect that this is the budget hearing conducted by the Board of Education of Woodland Community Consolidated School District 50, Lake County, Illinois, pursuant to Section 17-1 of the School Code. For the record, the board approved the preparation of the budget and in tentative form on June 22nd, 2023, and made the tentative budget available to public inspection for more than 30 days prior to any final action. On July 7th, 2023, notice was published in the Daily Herald of tonight's public hearing and of the availability on July 7th, 2023 of the tentative budget for public inspection. Further notice of tonight's hearing and the availability of the tentative budget for inspection was posted on the district's website and placed on public display in the district's office for more than 30 days. At this time, does the administration wish to make any comments?
Yes.
All right.
All right. Thank you for having me here at this will be the third and final installment of presentation on the budget. We started back in May with a report. In June, we had a presentation. In August, we had an update to it. And tonight, we have to have the budget hearing and adoption. The adoption is supposed to take place, or is required to take place, prior to September 30th of every fiscal year. And thank you also to the public that has joined us as well. So we jump right into it, and I'm going to take a step forward here, just a little closer to the board. These are the slides that we put on all of our presentations. They're pie charts. They let you know where the money is going and what it's being spent on, and what the difference is between the previous year's budget and the budget that we are looking to adopt tonight. You can see some of the differences in revenues, or the more significant difference in revenues of $3.5 million between last year and this year. We talked about that at the last August update, whereas we had kind of a reworking of the tax distributions. We have more money coming into the education fund. Operations and maintenance, there's a slight increase, although we will have the inverter rebates coming in. Debt service is going to increase because our bonds are going to begin to go up as we restructured a few years back, and we had it temporarily reduced. If you take a look at the sources of the revenues, we are a typical school district around the Lake County area. The majority comes from our local revenues, with the vast majority coming from our taxes. State will constitute roughly $10 million, and the federal is about $5.4 million, which is, even though it's below what it was last year, it's still ahead of where it is typically. We are still receiving funding as a residual from not from the CARES Act anymore, but from the American Rescue Plan, the ARP dollars. This is more of a breakdown. Feel free to read everything in here. The local revenue, 94.39%, is made up of our taxes. That's, like I said, that is very typical of the districts that you'll see up in this area. It's also 80.1% of all of our district revenue. And what we have going on last year and what we're going to have going on potentially this November, based off of how the economy has been doing and how the consumer price index has been doing. Last year was the first year that we actually hit the property tax extension limitation law of 5%. There's a tax cap of 5%. We went ahead and we approved an increase of 5%, even though the CPI was 7%. This year, CPI that we used from the previous December is 6.5%. We will hit that tax cap again, and we will be asking for that 5% once again, which is embedded into this budget. If you look at our state revenues, evidence-based funding, that is going to be 50% of the revenues, and we'll get into a slide a little bit later on. We're actually at a hearing tonight. Prairie Crossing plays a part in the monies that we receive, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. The majority of the other funding comes from our special education transportation. We have education grants, we have early childhood grants. The transportation makes up a significant portion, as the state pays for roughly 70% of both our regular education and special education transportation. Federal dollars, like I said beforehand, we still have some residual monies left over from the American Rescue Plan, the ARP. Significant amount still left over in ESSER. We might have some residual going into the following year because it allows us to spend through September 30th of 2024. We're going to probably spend the vast majority of it this year. We also have interfund transfers. We'll be transferring money to pay for our capital leases, which once upon a time, a few years ago, were $500,000 and above. Because we're getting off of capital leases for our one-to-one computers, it's down to $46,000 right The $3.25 million will be transferred over to our capital projects to take care of some of the larger projects that we have going on. This is the slide I was talking about. This is evidence-based funding. The key areas that you want to look at are in fiscal year 23. Prairie Crossing received $5.4 million to our $5.3 million. And what's going to happen in fiscal year 24 is that Prairie Crossing has gone up to $5.9 million, and we've gone down to $4.9 million. Prairie Crossing is almost at $6 million. A couple of reasons for that. One of the largest reasons is that their enrollment increased. When I say enrollment, not their overall enrollment, but the portion that is ours and not necessarily Fremont's. So we increased by a number of students, and we have to multiply that amount by the funding formula for charter schools, which is our per capita tuition cost. So there's a large amount right there that automatically shifts over to Prairie Crossing. In years past, we relied on some additional dollars from the evidence-based funding model. We were a Tier 2 school, which meant we received more funding. We are now a Tier 3 school. We've crossed that 90% threshold. We are now at 92% in adequacy. So we received less. It's actually more than I thought it was going to be. It's $89,000. That helps to offset that loss a little bit in funding dollars. This year we're going to receive $414,000 less, and Prairie Crossing will be receiving an additional $500,000 more. Those would be our revenues in a nutshell, and we go right into our expenditures for the year. The overall expenses are projected at $103 million, which is more than the $99 million that we projected for our overall revenues. But we have to remember that we have a significant amount of capital projects in there. We have bonded out twice now in order to borrow money for those capital projects, and those are projects that are more one-offs, and those are the projects that you won't see in a typical annual operating budget. Education fund, we've gone up by about $3.525 million. You can take a look at salaries and benefits and the additional FTE that we staffed for this year, as well as some of the curriculum adoptions. We actually have some decreases in operations and maintenance and debt service and transportation. So the largest increase will be your education fund, and your biggest decrease is going to be in capital projects. Last year we had some significant projects as well. The following year we're going to have residual projects from this year. They're going to take up probably the bulk of next year's funds. When you start talking about things like roofs, we're still paying for our roof from this summer. We're still paying for the parking lots. So you've got a little bit of that going on. Majority of it goes into salaries and benefits. You can see about 72% that's in line. That is not out of line by any issue or by any way, shape, or form. Our services had gone up $991,000, which is more significant than in previous years. If you see right here towards the bottom, a lot of that comes from our staffing this year in some of the areas that we're not able to staff in terms of OTs, speech paths. We're looking to outsource those individuals, and there's quite a few. So we had a boost in our services. Supplies and equipment are down. Like I said, debt service is down a little bit, and tuition, on average, you're going to see it go up probably roughly 5% per year. Same thing like the revenue slide. This is a little bit more in depth and in a little bit more detail. We talked about the amount for salaries and benefits. What I didn't get into with benefits is that our benefits increased. Our PPO went up by 10.4%, which is a lot higher than normal. Typically, you'll see benefits increase by about 4%. The HMO was 4.5%. So that's about more in line where you see, but we do have a lot of people that are in the PPO. Purchase services. When you talk about purchase services, you've got a lot of kind of big hitters that you have to, you basically have to go through every year. So you're talking about your custodial cleaning, our third-party vendor that we have that comes in and cleans during the night. You're talking about bus leases for our 82 buses. You're talking about food service and your copier rentals and our insurance costs. Supplies and equipment is probably where you have more of your variance on a year-to-year basis, and capital projects. Because if you have big items and big ticket items that you need, such as trucks, which you'll see in one of our capital project slides, or if you have something go down like a water chiller at the intermediate school, that could cause a little bit of variance. And then obviously capital projects. Are you doing large projects like the ones that we're doing with our paving and with our roofing, or are you doing smaller projects? Debt service, like I said, 4.189 million. Actually, the levy is going to have to, when we get to the levy portion of this next month and the month following that, you'll see that there's going to be an increase, which can hit the following year. Walking through, this is a lot. So kudos to operations and facilities and the tech department, because a lot of these projects are on both of them. You're looking at things from everything highlighted above in that kind of off yellow or tannish. That's the stuff that we've been doing over this past summer. That's the stuff that we still have quite a bit. If you look in this area here, there's quite a bit of payment that went into fiscal year 24. The rest of everything that's down below is all the estimates for what we've got going on this year, which you're looking at, things from playground turf replacement at primary school to the cabinets that we had already discussed and talked about earlier. We're looking at some safety items like rekeying South Campus locks. And then one of the items that'll be on, we'll have our Director of Technology and Innovation. You see this lovely flat panel screen up here. There's going to be a presentation about it and a little how-to with this. So a couple of the grants in here are going to be, or a couple of the projects in here are going to be, we'll supplement some of the funding with school maintenance grants. We've got a grant that we've got to report on a little bit later today. It's a $50,000 matching grant. We're going to utilize two of them this year, the one from last year and the one from this year. What we're going to be doing when we go to take the vote is that there's going to be an action item that basically says the things and the items that we have up here in this capital projects plan the board approves of, and that way you'll give us the authority to go out and start the bidding process. You'll give us the authority to go out and start the procurement process, because if we need to bid out, then we have to get, typically you'd have to get board approval to go to bid, and then you have to actually do the bid, and now you're looking at 3, 4, 5 months just in order to get the process going. So we're going to go ahead and take care of that right up front. And like I said, this is one of the items, the capital project, that can significantly vary from year to year. The big slide, the grand finale slide, is where are we going to be at? And the place I always tell everybody to look is the lower right-hand corner. Is it going to be a number that's in the red? Once again, yes, it is. Based off of the revenues and off of the expenses, we're looking at our fund balance to decrease by about $3.2 million. That is due to the capital projects. If you take out the capital projects, we'd be in great shape. None of this is going to impact how the district looks in terms of the financial recognition that personally I seek and that the district seeks as well, because they don't include capital projects in that mix, because everybody knows that something big can happen and something can go wrong and you borrow money and you can abate your working cash fund in order to take care of it. So in the grand scheme of things, although it is a $3.2 million deficit, we are in good, healthy shape for this year. And that will conclude tonight's budget hearing. And I'm now opening up for questions from the board.
What was, you said the insurance went up, was the HMO or the PPO was the 10%?
PPO actually went up 10.4%. The HMO went up 4.5%.
Okay, so that, okay.
Yeah,
That's what I thought, yeah.
I have a quick question
Yes.
about the solar panels at middle school. I know this question has been asked and answered before, I just don't remember. How long until that project saves us money on energy costs?
Today.
That's-
As a matter of fact, what we're going to have is within the next 60 days, we're going to get our first rebate, which will be the inverter rebate, which will be $282,000. So that money will be coming to the district, which is great because the price of the middle school project and what we pay in electricity is less than, it was roughly about $300,000 before the solar project happened. So we are energized right now. We are starting to get the rebates, and we'll also get the solar renewable energy credits, which will add on about another $137,000. I'm anticipating that before the end of the calendar year, so sometime before December. So we'll get 282 plus 137, which will be nice.
What about as far as like our energy costs though?
Yep,
Like
our energy costs are going down. We are energized, we are up and running, we are good to go. So
Oh,
we
yeah.
are saving money as we speak.
Okay, all right. Awesome. Love to hear it. It's just every time we talk about budget, we talk about how much this roof is costing us.
Oh,
So
it
I'm
costs
just
a lot.
hoping that like, you know.
It's the payback, it's I believe they estimated it right about 10 years, I think, was the payback period for the roof. So money up front, it'll take us 10 years to actually recoup that, and then we'll start, panels should last 20 to 25 years at least. So in those final 10 years, that's when you'll see the kind of the fruits of.
Okay, and that's the number I was thinking about.
Yeah.
I knew there was a number of years. Okay, all right, cool. Any other questions? Carla?
No, thank you.
All right.
I believe we open it up to the public as well.
Yes, are there any comments from the public about the budget?
Going once.
All right. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing on the budget?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Gary,
Yes.
Carla,
Aye.
Renee, Brianna,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. And now we are, thank you, Chris. We're moving on to our superintendent report.
Me again.
Oh.
Hang on a second.
Sorry.
Yeah. So before we get started on that, I wanted to bring the board's attention to the artwork that's around the board table. Again, in acknowledgement of our Hispanic Heritage Month and some of the different activities that our teachers and students are engaged in, I really want to thank elementary art teacher Kathleen Hunt, who shared some of this great work, and it's also, you can't see it if you're watching it on video, but it's all around the boardroom. It's the Zapotec rugs that were inspired by, from Oaxaca, Mexico, and then also the sun and the moon paintings as Mexican folk art. And then there's like face and different animals, roosters, there's a lizard, some lizard. Those are inspired by Picasso and the Spanish architect Gaudi. And these wonderful pieces of work came from students in Mrs. Howell's class, Miss Fayards, Miss Van Anroy, Miss Vasquez, Miss Walensky, and I don't know if I said Miss Howell. But yeah, so thank you to all of our creative students and our teachers for sharing this work with us, and so that we could help us celebrate in a little more festive environment. So thank you to all of them. And then I know Chris is very excited to do the presentation. I just want to remind the board that one of the commitments that we made as part of this new strategic plan was to each month kind of keep this plan front and center. You know, what gets measured gets done, and so we want to keep talking about each of the different goal areas of the plan. And this is our fourth goal area, which is, our third goal area, which is finance. And so since we're everything budget tonight, I thought it was appropriate for Chris, since he had control of the clicker, just to go ahead and finish and to talk about the finance goal in our strategic plan and what we're working on this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Sorry, I
Major.
tried to run you off. I didn't mean to.
I will echo what Dr. Machek said. This artwork up here is amazing.
Yes, can we
Actually
clap
finally
for the
presenting it to you. All right. As Dr. Machek said, this is the third installment. So you're going to take a look at some of the slides, and some of them will be familiar. We're trying to keep the same format. I am Mr. Chris Bobek. I am doing the finance portion of the strategic plan. I helped chair the strategic plan with Principal Drake from the middle school. Had a lovely time, had great participation, and board members that participated as well. So it was the first year that I've experienced doing this without having an outside company, and I thought it was a fantastic process. So kudos to the board for allowing us to, trusting us to do this on our own without bringing somebody else in. Going back to where it all began, there was initial stakeholder feedback that came from the thought exchanges, and then there was a night where the board got together and we all started talking, and we all started going through the planning and trying to narrow down what the topics were going to be. At the end of the night, we had developed 4 goals, and Dr. Thomas before me in August had said it's really 5 goals that we developed, but we decided that we were going to embed one of the goals into all 4 areas. So the student support operations, education, academics, and then my portion, finance. And through the equity lens, we came up with this graphic and this way to try to look at the entire process and try to look at how we make decisions and how we're trying to be diverse or try to be as equitable as humanly possible. So these are the priority area goals through the Smarty through the equity and inclusion lens. Excuse me. And then my goal, financial stewardship, very short, very to the point, to provide responsible and transparent financial stewardship to the community. I don't mind short and to the point. If you take a look at this a little bit further, we've got some outcomes that we were looking at. And one of the outcomes, and we spent a long time trying to figure out how and what and how, like all of the questions that we had and what we were going to do with this was to try to consider the impact of on all potential student groups when we start looking at new district initiatives. What we're going to do it small, we're going to do it big, how are we going to report it out? So that was basically a night and a half, I believe, we spent trying to figure out how to actually put this one together. And then obviously we want to exercise fiscal responsibility with enhanced transparency. We want to make sure that our short-term and our long-term priorities are met. So if we go right into the goals, this is the goal for this year, or the outcome priority area for this year. We want to utilize the Woodland Equity and Inclusion lens to inform decision-making and report to the Board of Education the new spending initiatives focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. That says by June of 2024, but usually when you start with initiatives, you start at the beginning of the year because you're going to try to budget for them. And we didn't start at the beginning of the year. We actually started this back in March and brought some ideas to departments and some ideas to our buildings and our building principals and asked them if they had any ideas of anything that they would like to start or initiate for the fiscal year 2024. So when we did kick off the year, one of the things that we did, we wanted to put DEI front and center, and the administrators get together and they have their leadership and planning conference. And at the conference this year, something that was a little bit newer, we had Dr. Spicer come in, and he had this immersion workshop on restorative strategies, which was wonderful, and everybody learned a lot from that meeting. And we also had Dr. Jacinta Thomas come in, and she gave a presentation and kind of an interactive workshop on engaging and empowering multicultural children in our schools. A little bit different from all of the LPC conferences I've been to in the past, but I think it was a great way to try to make this in the front of our minds and kind of in the forefront. We also had our inaugural School District 50 Equity Symposium. We had keynote speakers coming from Carthage, and we had our staff lead workshops / discussions on different areas for the Equity Symposium. I attended. You couldn't attend all 4. You could only choose 2. The 2 that I attended were just put together so well, and I'm so proud of the people that kind of came together and were the leaders in this, which was great. And I'm assuming that this is going to be something that will be continuing into the future for sure. Also new to the district, not new the Courageous Conversations, but for new hires, ensuring that during new hire orientation they received the Courageous Conversations workshop, which is great for the district. So you kick it off by looking at professional development at the beginning of the year, and then you go into more of the student-centric areas, including the staffing initiatives that we've got. You'll be hearing in the second showcase from our Dean of Climate and Culture, something that the board approved over the summer. We also just recently approved the Student Success Center counselor, which is going to be fantastic because you never know what students need what at any given time throughout the school year. And I'm glad we have this in place, or are going to have it in place once we hire, in order to help those students out. The curriculum pilots and or adoptions that we've got going on this year, when Dr. Thomas gets up here with his curriculum and instruction, fellow administrators, you can see the care that they take when they present to you. You can see the intentionality that they have, making sure that the curriculum that is selected is inclusive, making sure that they get input from all different areas, and making sure that, you know, there's some student choice. You saw that with the last adoption. You saw it with the adoption right before that. You'll see that with more adoptions that are coming up this year. So they do a wonderful job, and get ready to hear some curriculum adoptions and pilots probably sometime in the spring. Other initiatives, building initiatives, we've talked about diversity clubs at some of the buildings. The primary school is interested in building a multicultural classroom library. We're going to add to it every year. They're going to make sure that everybody has the same books, the same novels. They're going to read them at an appropriate time. They're going to grow that from starting 3 books, and then I think they're going to look to add 3 books every year, and eventually, like all of the classrooms there will have a very significant cultural library, which will be wonderful. Adaptive playground equipment. Now it's over at intermediate school. Tim Sheldon, Principal Sheldon, had been looking at kind of expanding the areas and making some of the areas more inclusive for students, maybe that not interested in more of the physical activity, but he's looking at some gaming tables for students. Adaptive playground equipment also in terms of things like this communications board that are coming from our student services department. I know that they're looking to potentially put something in this year, a communications board for our nonverbal or limited verbal students, which will be fantastic for them as well. And then the cultural spaces. We go throughout the building. There's been a big push to say, you know, let's make the building, you know, in places where it might look a little bit more sterile, maybe look a little bit more welcoming to all of our students. And that'll probably be, you know, it might be part of our, maybe not. Kathy, is this part of yours? No? Okay. Sure. Just, sure, why not? Capital projects, we talked about that during our, during the budget hearing. You know, there is a signage committee that we've been walking around. We've been starting to walk around the buildings. It's a rather daunting task, a rather large task, and we're just getting underway. You know, we start looking at like wayfinding signs or war signs or our cool tools, redesigning, redeveloping, making sure that they're multilingual, making sure that people know where they're going. You know, in some of the areas there's talk about having certain identifiers in 5 languages, at the very least 2 languages. So when you think of capital projects, parking lots, you have to have ADA accommodations. I know we reworked this South Campus, the primary school parking lot. You had to figure out kind of where everything goes. You have to make sure the pitch is right as well. There's a lot of little things that go into that. Same thing with Blue Point. Is it ADA accessible? So those are the initiatives that we've come up with this year so far. I don't know if there'll be many after that because, you know, we do have a budget, but this is our first year doing it, and we're looking to expand and grow upon it next year as well. In terms of the remaining kind of goals for the finance area, develop and support a multilingual DASH program. I've been looking into that. Interestingly enough, the multilingual portion of it is the one that's been a little bit more challenging. I've looked at some districts. I read about some districts who have won some national awards for financial transparency, won the INSPRA award, and I've contacted the companies that they've been using, and I asked about, are your products multilingual, and they'll tell me no. So I'm still going to look into that, and instead of having it in by next year, I'm going to try to have it in before the end of this year. Balanced budget is a goal every year. Every year, that'll be it's my own individual goal. And then exploring alternative revenue sources and enhancing the district's financial position. That also is kind of a goal for every year. This year, Dr. Maychek was instrumental in getting the Whitman Foundation back together. An amazing job, and we're happy, and we're ready to see that get kicked off. And business office is going to be part of that, as well as some board members and some other administrators and other staff members around the district. So those will be all of the goals in total. Does anybody have any questions?
Now, a question or comment. This was the part of the strategic plan that was hardest for me to kind of wrap my brain around, and you did a really good job of explaining it and kind of wrapping the equity vision lens around it. I'm sorry, thank you, Laura. So I really appreciate that. You can tell that this was very thoughtful.
So that was the most challenging part. We went through many versions, many statements of what we were trying to accomplish. It shifted from the original, then almost shifted back, and then shifted sideways again. So it was a good long discussion. I'm glad we got to the point where it got.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks for leading this with Tiffany. Thanks, Drake. Thank you for leading this goal area. You know, I remember, so Chris and I were talking about this presentation, and he said, well, should I mention like Dr. Spicer, Dr. Thomas, because it's really not finance, but it really is, because Dr. Thomas, when we were with him on August the 1st, he made a comment. He said, you know, if you want to look at a district's priorities, look at where they're spending their money. I think when you look at the budget that Mr. Bobek presented, and then you look at where we've allocated funds this year to try to make our buildings more accessible, more engaging, and feel more comfortable for all of our students, I think it's very clear that the priority for Woodland's budget is in our students, in our staff members, and the feeling of belonging, which is really fits right into the second part of my presentation, which is I'm thrilled to introduce Kathy Tragus, who's our new Dean of Student Culture, and that's a position that I came to the board in the spring and requested based on the strategic plan and the 26 elements of student belonging that are in the plan. As I remember when talking to Kathy about the position, I said it's really not like new initiatives, but there's so many new things that we all want to do. It's somebody who's kind of the liaison between the building and the idea, and somebody who can help do the legwork and get things done that everybody wants to get done, but like, what do you take off your plate to do this other thing? Kat's been amazing, and before I talk too much about her, because I want her to be able to tell you all the cool things she's been doing, I want to say that in my 3 years here, I've never met anyone with more energy or more passion for what she's been charged with doing, and it's really my pleasure to introduce our new Dean of Student Culture to you, Ms. Kathy Tragus.
Thank you, Dr. Machek, for that very lovely introduction. Good evening, board members and Woodland community, those here present and those watching from home. It is an honor to be here. I have been in the district for 20 years. Since I was hired in 2003, I've taken on various different roles. I started as a classroom teacher, then proceeded to be an assistant principal at elementary for a brief fleeting moment, but it was a lot of fun. And then returned back to the classroom to teach again. And then I finished my career for the past 9 years as a math interventionist before then transitioning into this new role. My roles here in the district have given me a lot of experience, but also afforded me the opportunity to take on different responsibilities, like MTSS, multi-tiered systems of supports, and also being a restorative practice leader in the district. And I'm thrilled that in this new job I can still continue that work. I'm also excited that outside of the district I can draw upon my wealth and knowledge as a yoga instructor, because that helps me to tap in my ability to provide social emotional learning, mindfulness, and well-being. And it also reminds me just to take a deep breath because we all need that, whether we're on or off our mats. I appreciate the board acknowledging the importance of this position and allowing me the opportunity to take on this role. While the job description is 4 pages long, I don't know that I'll be able to accomplish all of that year one, but I also know that you set a very clear vision for what you want out of the Dean of Student Culture, and I focus in on basically 3 key areas: success, safety, and well-being district-wide. That's no small task, I'll be honest. So to ensure that I am making that happen, I am relying not only on my 20 years experience here in the district, but the 4 bullet points that you see there. I rely heavily on Dr. Tan Siegel's work and his 4 S's, which I'll explain them a little bit. That has helped me to figure out how I'm going to support the district as a whole, and then how I can look to and support individual schools. and ultimately comes down to my belief in the power of showing up. If you're not familiar with Dr. Dan Siegel, he is a professor at UCLA. He's also the executive director of the MindSight Institute. He is an author of several books on mindfulness, interpersonal relationships, parenting, and brain development. His 4 S's seen here are about secure attachments. There are 2 images. The one on the left deals with children, and the one on the right deals with adults, but if you look closely, they're almost identical. That's because we as humans need the same thing regardless of our age. We need to feel safe, seen, soothed, and secure. So what does that look like? Safety is just as you think it is. It's providing a space free from threat or harm. And I think everybody in this room can agree that that's what we want in our schools, in all of our Woodland buildings. We want people who walk through our doors to feel safe, free from threat, free from harm, free from fear, and to feel welcome. And I think we do a good job of that. We also want people to be seen. And that's having a sense that they are acknowledged for their race, their ethnicity, their culture, their language, their gender, their identity, however it is that they feel they show up in the world. And that in itself is so empowering. And if we can do that, that's just the tip of the iceberg, because it's not only recognizing their outward appearance or their culture or their language, it's also giving them a safe place to have a voice, a safe place to be listened to. Restorative practices teaches us that if you have a climate of inclusivity, you are doing those things. You are allowing everybody in the room, whether you are gathered around a table or seated in a circle, you are allowing them to have their voice heard and other people to listen with intent. That's how you make sure people are seen, and that's how you create spaces where we truly all belong. If we can do those 2 things effectively, then it makes it so much easier for people to be soothed. And this is that social emotional learning, that self-care, that well-being, that space of calm where we're allowed to take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Where all are comforted at times, not only during emotional moments, but just in times where we as adults feel dysregulated and when our students feel the same. We're human, we have emotions. They're real, they happen. Sometimes we can control them and sometimes we can't. So we have to learn how to be able to process and do so with self-care. If we can do those 3 things, then the 4th component falls into place so naturally. And that's creating an environment where people feel secure. Cultivating a sense in our buildings where you feel that everybody is reliable, that we work together collaboratively, that it's a space of non-judgment, that there is open communication, and most of all, there's trust. When I look at the district, when I'm bouncing around all the buildings, when I'm sitting on committees, whether it's MTSS, working on discipline, or even signage, I'm thinking about those 4 S's at all times. How are we being safe, seen, soothed, and secure? And what does that look like through our lens? If I'm showing up in a district committee, I not only want to be a voice, but I want to be one that's listening as well, because sometimes that's even more important. I want to make sure people are seen by working towards inclusive and culturally welcoming decor, but also with collaborating with our amazing cultural and equity and PBIS leaders that we already have in the district. I want to help soothe students and staff through proper implementation of restorative practices, SEL initiatives, and just creating a space where they know they are supported and heard. As I continue to move forward and assist with attendance and discipline data, maybe that's where I start to see the areas of those 4 pieces that perhaps we need to work on. Probably one of the most important things that I've done so far is creating a platform called the Friday Feel Good website. It's an in-district website that the staff can contribute to, where I post positive stories and collaborate with them, but where they also recognize each other. Tonight, I already have 100 more positive postings that I need to put up on the website. It's been a great way to see the staff engage in recognizing each other. And this just all trickles down to the schools. Yes, I still sit on building leadership teams, and I'm a voice, but I also listen. I volunteer in every opportunity I can, whether it's tomorrow's Green Apple Day, or just being another set of hands in a classroom, doing an RP circle for a teacher at intermediate, being part of our courtyard committee in that building as well. I mentor a new staff member over at the middle school, and I certainly love collaborating with Margarita. She's been a wonderful resource. I'd like to take this moment to make sure that you as board members are seen and heard, so if you have any questions, I'm open to them.
I don't have any questions, but I feel calm just listening to you. So I can tell that you are excited and energized about the position and what you're going to do, but to be able to also have that calming effect, I think is hopefully going to do wonders with our whole community.
Thank you so much.
I think it'll be really exciting to see you showing up in the different committees, and you're like the thread that's going through all these initiatives and these committees that we're starting, and so I'm just grateful we have another person to help us meet all of our goals from our strategic plan and keep with this theme. So I'm looking forward to this. Yeah.
Thank you. Then in closing, I will finish with an excerpt from this book. I believe in the power of showing up. Dan Siegel co-wrote this with Dr. Tina Payne Bryson, and I think it's very powerful whether you are a parent or a teacher or someone who works with children. It says this: you're doing fine. You're showing up. That's what matters. You don't have to be perfect. You can't be. We are all lifelong learners. Just be there for your kids. Love them. Use discipline moments as opportunities to teach and build skills. Model kindness, respect, and self-care for them. Apologize when you miss an opportunity or you mess up in other ways. They don't need every advantage, and they don't need a super parent. They just need you. Authentic, flawed, and fully present. They need you to show up. I don't make empty promises, but I can promise you this. I will continue to model kindness, respect, and self-care. I am not perfect. I am flawed, I am authentic, and I will be fully present with you on this journey. And I also promise to show up for everyone. Thank you.
I didn't know I could get more excited about this new position. I'm excited about it. The next item on our agenda is citizen statements, and we have 2 people signed up to give statements. The first one, Maitri Mehta, I don't know if I'm saying that right, I apologize. And just, if you could please identify yourself and let us know your relationship to the district, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for having us today. My name is Maitri Mehta, and I'm a parent of 2 students in the district.
Yeah, I'm Anu Tangaswamy, and I have a middle schooler here. I'm a parent of a middle schooler here.
Okay, so we don't have slideshows, so apologies for that. We are here because, again, like we said, we are kids of parents. We are parents of kids that are in the middle school, and our kids participated in Science Olympiad for the 2022-2023 school year. And as you are aware, the middle school has been participating in Science Olympiad for several years now. Both the parents as well as the alumni did assist us and helped us through, help the team last year, and the team has shown consistent progress. For last year, we had about 35 students that participated in the club, and we actually placed 8th in state, which I think was a great accomplishment both for the kids as well as the school. The team was actually acknowledged here by the board. I don't know if you guys remember earlier in the spring, so that was a great proud moment for all of us. Why we are here. So earlier in September, we were informed that there is a potential that we may not have a Science Olympiad team this year, and the main reason was resourcing to conduct the program. At this time, we do not know where the decision stands. We have emailed Mrs. Dyson, who is the primary coach. She's the primary leader for that program, as well as the principal, but we have not received a response yet, so we don't know where this stands at this time. We are here to request you help us make sure that this program is not eliminated. This competition is extremely nurturing for our kids. And they get a great deal of exposure, not just to science, but a lot of other if you see the enthusiasm, they work together, they work in a team, they do research, they go and present in front of all schools. I mean, it is a great opportunity for our kids. Again, middle school did have a debate club in the past, which does not exist anymore. But again, our humble request right now is if we can take any measures or any help that we can support to make sure that this program does not get eliminated from the school. And that's our request. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you very much. And again, if there's anything we can do from our end, please feel free to communicate with us. Thank you.
Thank you. And were you the second person signed up? Is that your, okay, all right, good.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second. So I just want to note this was this is where we took one of the policy part out, right? So it's item E.
Yes.
That will be moved to a separate action item. So everything on this list except item E. Any more discussion? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Carla,
Aye.
Renee, Brianna,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Gary.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. Our first action item is the approval of the FY24 budget. And there are 4 required motions for this item. So the first one, may I have a motion to approve Resolution 1, approving the budget for the fiscal period of July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Renee, Brianna,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Carla.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve resolution number 2, authorizing the resolution abating the working cash fund to the debt service fund in the amount of $46,475.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Brianna,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Carla,
Aye.
Renee, Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve resolution number 3, authorizing the resolution abating the working cash fund to the capital projects fund in the amount of $3,250,000?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Amy?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Carla?
Aye.
Renee? Brianna?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
And finally, may I have a motion to approve the FY24 capital expenditures spending plan, including technology and facility purchases, as presented, and authorize the district to proceed with capital expenditures bidding and general procurement as needed throughout the 2023-24 school year?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Anna?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Carla?
Aye.
Renee? Brianna?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. Doesn't seem terribly exciting, but it is nice to have to have a plan of how we're going to spend our money, I guess. Our next item on the agenda, approval of a settlement for a student matter. Can I have a motion to approve the settlement agreement regarding student FY 24-01 based on the conditions discussed in closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Corey?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Carla?
Abstain.
Did she say nay?
Abstain.
Abstain. I'm sorry. Renee? Brianna?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0 with 1 abstention.
Thank you. Item C is the approval of one paraprofessional at the primary school. Can I have a motion to approve the addition of a 1-to-1 paraprofessional for the 2023-24 school year as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Gary?
Yes.
Carla?
Carla?
Aye.
Renee? Brianna?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right, and then item D that we moved to this part of the agenda is our policy, approval of policy changes that were discussed at last month's meeting, I believe. And Carla, I believe you wanted to discuss those? Oh, I guess we need a, we need a motion first. Can I, let's see, can I have a motion?
You'll have to look in your board book because it's not, because it's under consent, it was under consent agenda, there's not an actual motion.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, so it would be, can I have a motion to adopt the revised board policies as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we'll have time for discussion now. Carla, would you like to go first?
Yes, the policy 2:220, the word extensively was inserted, and it shouldn't be qualified that way.
Okay. Could you be more specific about that?
Yes, anytime there's a need for discussion or even to ask a question about an item, it has to be pulled from consent in order to just even ask a basic question. So it's not extensive discussion, it's any discussion.
I'm going to look up the documents from the policy meeting,
Okay.
so I can have the footnotes.
Okay, all right. Carla Brianna was just saying she's going to pull up the footnotes from our policy meeting where we discussed this. Brianna. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. So that was a red, which means it came from not the committee.
Yeah, that was a press recommendation.
That was a
to
press
add that word.
recommendation. There's no footnote describing why. I mean, that's all I'm seeing, is that it was just a press recommendation.
Okay.
It seems to make sense that if you're going to talk about something to pull out, as Dr. Little is suggesting, so it certainly doesn't hurt to take it out. Take it out of consent so you can talk about it and put it back in action.
Yeah, it's interesting because if that was a press recommendation, I mean, we pay them to recommend to us what our policies, should say to reflect the law and the.
The copy I was just looking at didn't have the footnotes, so.
Yeah, the footnote is actually corresponds to footnote 3 on page 1 of 8. I don't know if you got them up.
Try to, but my email
There we go.
revolting against me.
Okay, to comply with the Open Meetings Act mandate that minutes contain a summary of discussion on all matters proposed, deliberated, or decided, a board should include a list of consented items in the agenda. OMA also requires that any final action be preceded by a public recital of the nature of the matter being considered and other information that will inform the public of the business being conducted. Some level of explanation of the consent agenda items must be verbally given before a board votes to approve consent agenda. The Illinois Supreme Court has held that the recital must announce the nature of the matter under consideration with sufficient detail to identify the particular transaction or issue, but need not provide an explanation of its items or its significance.
Okay. When we, I feel like when we approve the consent agenda, it's like any other vote that we do, there's time for discussion. So, I think that's kind of the point, is like if we're going to have an extensive discussion, that we should pull it out like we did this policy. But if it were just
Clarification question.
Yeah, a quick question, that we could do that during this discussion for the consent agenda vote. Does anybody else have any comments about this item? Okay. Carla, was that your only concern with this policy?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. If there's no more discussion, can we please have a roll call vote?
Carla?
No.
Renee? Brianna?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-1.
Thank you. Now we'll get into our reports and discussion items. And first up, we have a written report and presentation on the FY23 summer school program.
Yeah, very excited to have our Director of Student Support and Innovation, Risa Cohen, talk about a very successful summer program, and thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for having me again. I'm so excited to be here and really appreciate the time to talk about summer school. This is going into year 3 in the district for me, and it's year 2 of summer school director. So it was a lot of fun this year, actually feeling more confident and more comfortable putting in some new things. Some of the things stayed the same. Our program details, it's open to all returning Woodland students and incoming kindergartners, so it's K through 8. It was at the intermediate school again. The cost returned to pre-COVID pricing. We offered scholarships through PTA. 20-some scholarships were offered. We made phone calls, we sent emails, we sent letters, we did everything to get as many students as possible those scholarships. 8 families accepted, well, actually 12 families accepted, 8 attended. Again, full-day program for both ESY and WSA, and progress reports. That was all the same for all kiddos that attended. What's new this year? So we worked really hard with our registrar's office to create a system where we could use Skyward, the same system we use to register our students during the school year. This was an amazing success. It allowed so many things for our staff, like being able to take attendance rather than in a Google Sheet. It allowed us access to rostering students in programs and in classes and sectioning. So we will be doing it again. And it also allows us for some of the other things that upload into our EduClimber system that we have, our data warehouse. We will be working so that it's not there yet, but one of the things we will do is you'll be able to look who attended summer school, who had intervention during summer school, so we can see longitudinally how we're doing with our kids. We shifted based on staff feedback and surveys from a 5-week program, Monday through Thursday, that started 3 weeks after school let out, to we started right after school let out that Monday, well actually not that Monday, that was Juneteenth, but that Tuesday, and went to Monday through Friday. So it was 4 weeks condensed based on staff feedback, and we'll be doing that again next year too. It was great thanks to all those involved in making all those, especially ONF, to John, for getting materials from point A to point B over the weekend. That was an amazing accomplishment of logistics. I don't know how you did it, but thank you. We added intervention this year, which we had talked about last year. So we had our reading interventionists and our math interventionists. Bridges Math had been adopted, so we ordered Bridges Math intervention kits for our summer school staff and provided training. And we did push in and pull out the same as we do during the school year. I worked with Elizabeth Sanchez-Sapezi. iStation is an intervention tool we've been using at an intermediate, and it's truly bilingual in the sense of all the supports for the reading intervention. Part of it are in English and in Spanish, and I'll share some of the reports in a minute. And we get a biliteracy report that shows us how are the kids doing in both English and Spanish. One's a dominant language, one is in our L1 and our L2, and where do we need the support? Where are they weaker? Is it in their home language or their new language? And it gives us information that other intervention programs don't. Here we go. So enrollment and staffing, we worried this past year with charging the fee again. What's that going to look like? And if you look at our WSA numbers, we were only down by 4 students. ESY, we pay for it. They don't pay. So we've only down by 4 students, which to me was amazing and a wonderful surprise. So we had 390 students in person daily for those 4 weeks, 74 instead of 75 staff, 49 certified teachers, and still 24 non-certified. Those non-certified supported our ESY program. We only had 1 or 2 that were supporting our general WSA. Same for the bus drivers and the transportation, shared office staff. And then our programs were the same. The thing I did realize that I left out, we added music this year. We had one of our bilingual teachers from Spain, happened to be a music teacher in Spain, and said, "Can I teach music?" I said, "Absolutely." So that was really fun to have a music teacher who, both in English and Spanish, could provide that, which was something we don't even have in general. So that was really fun to go and visit that classroom. Our goals for the year were continuing to integrate our students so that things weren't separate, ESY and WSA. We made sure we addressed IEP goals, and to the best of our ability, not only to prevent learning loss, but if we could, for those kids where we could accelerate, we had students who are in our advanced and challenge classes. We made sure those opportunities still exist. We aligned our curriculum is aligned to standards. And then we provided structured literacy and math programs at all levels. Last year you had approved the Scholastic Literature Program, which again we used. The tents still went up for our summer reading camp. We continued the social emotional learning and team building activities with our social workers who were on site. The only thing we didn't get this summer was Truett didn't come and visit this summer, but hopefully next year he'll be back. So here's some iStation data. The majority of use was for intervention in 1st through 4th grade. We did have some at upper levels. It's a very small chart. If you want more information at some point, I'm happy to provide it. The information is in red is where students started in June at the beginning of the program. And in the teeny tiny numbers, you will see those were in the lower 300s, lower 400s. In July, we had some significant movement into the green to the higher numbers. So there was student growth. We don't expect a lot of growth and acceleration in 4 weeks. Using a program probably you don't use it every day. It's 20 minutes, 3 days a week max. So the fact that we saw students moving was encouraging. Right? And we know that at least we're preventing regression. So this was another interesting report from that literacy piece. Some of our students had been using it. That's why you see May. There were students who had used it in our HIT program, our tutoring program, so that's why there is some May data. So those students in our HIT program, there's about 30 kids that are represented in here. The growth they made between May and July was huge. The HIT grant, that'll be another presentation on another night, the data for that. But we're just really pleased that across the board our kids made some progress using the program. So successes, we always survey and ask for feedback. Out of the 390 families that attended, we had about 30 responses. So 93% of those 30 responses of our staff, all our staff replied. This is the staff part. That Skyward was just a really wonderful asset this year. And they appreciated having additional instructional resources. They would like to see more STEM and STEAM, so I'll work on that we have more STEM and STEAM activities and curriculum. They appreciated that everything was consistent and aligned, and activities, a lot of them we provide, and a lot of them, there's a lot of leeway in summer school for let's get creative, and they partnered across, and science was engaging with water balloons and bubbles and water activities and measuring how, when I throw the water balloon, how much water is displaced. So just interesting and creative ways. The intervention was appreciated. We did set some expectations for that we didn't have in the past. And we had iReady available for some of our classrooms. It was not a huge initiative, but it is on here. The iStation was the big piece for intervention. And staff is asking, can we add more? We added music. What else can we add? What else can we do next year that's new and different that's not just reading and math? So that'll be another project to work on. From the parent perspective, they liked the new schedule. There were a few with the new schedule that had absences because of pre-planned activities. They did like that more activities. We combined classes and did some different things this year. And budget, there's our numbers. Thank you, Chris and Business Office for providing this for us. So next steps for us are continuing with the Skyward enrollment. We always review the integration. Robin Clipp was my partner in crime, and she has since left the district, so we're looking forward to having that posting to find another person to partner with for this coming summer. We will maintain and continue progress reports, continue with intervention, building staff capacity for all those other parts and pieces, and adding in lessons and programs and looking for materials. So short and sweet. Questions, thoughts?
How are you feeling, Big U, how are you feeling about the enrollment numbers I mean, I know that there was adding the fee, and there's, are we gonna get it? Are we happy with the numbers? Are we wanting to get more students?
I would
Are we-
love to see more students. I would love to figure out and processing through what does that look like. This year, a lot of the feedback I did get in talking with families who chose not to come, whether it was for scholarship or other reasons, was we're just kind of taking a break from school. There was some of that. Park districts and camps and all those things are up and running again. So I want to give my student another opportunity to do some of those things. And summer school used to be, it was a half a day and we could pick from art or we could pick from music and we only had to come for this amount of time. Or we only had to show up for, the morning. And could we do a half a day of fun stuff and a half a day of academics? So there's all those different models that I have a little chart that I'm working through to see how can we staff all of that and work with transportation logistically. So yes, I would love to see more, and people are asking, can you do it the whole summer?
Well, because my second question was, has any investigation been done into like an actual formal, let's find out what's stopping families from enrolling? Because to hear that the PTA offered 26 scholarships.
That made me so sad because last year we used them all and the year before. So that was heartbreaking to me that we had funding there that people did not take advantage of, particularly after phone calls. And it was, did something go wrong? Like I was asking all the questions, did something happen last year that they don't want to come back or any of those things? And it could just be that year of, we're not sure what, so open to suggestions.
We've had a full year post-COVID,
Yeah.
break maybe.
Yeah, maybe. There was a lot of that.
Have you heard from staff or parents mention the Summer Wonders program that I think Woodland used to do?
Is that what it was called?
I think that's kind of what you're getting. People are looking for that old Summer Wonders feel. I didn't participate in it, but I remember reading about it, and it was very popular. And this program seems more like summer school, and so maybe anyone who's experienced with that program could share with you more like what it's about, and might help you to understand what people are looking for and bridging that with your program now.
Thank you. I think, Amy, that was probably what parents were talking about.
Yeah.
We'd wait in line outside of school.
That's what
we'd
they're
have to
talking
sign
about,
up,
Summer Wonders.
and we'd have to be first come, first serve for basketball or for soccer or for music or whatever those things were. And interestingly, last year I did survey parents and we had teachers who signed up to teach some of these things. And I surveyed parents and said, okay, if you want to sign up for this.
Yeah.
And then and they didn't.
But they
Yeah, we want. So I do want to try and figure some of that out. It's a lot of moving parts and pieces. I do think it's important, though.
Absolutely.
I just have a real quick question. Is our entire ESY program happens at the summer school program?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're both at the same time. We use the east side of the building. All the classrooms are in the same place. When we have our ESY students, when they're in class, because they're all in class, except for our ISEC, our self-contained classes, they're all in the same classroom, and that's where the aides are supporting. So there's the teacher-student ratio in those classrooms, like our kindergarten classroom, where there's almost 1-to-1 for those who are the ESY kids. So there's a higher para-pro ratio when we have a highly integrated class. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks so much. Oh, there's
Oh, sure, yeah, thank you. So,
oh, go ahead.
no,
No,
I thought you just told me to do that. I apologize. So the next report and presentation is from our Director of Technology and Innovation, and that is a report on flat panels. So kind of the best advertisement, I suppose, is using it. So all tonight's presentations have been on the flat panel. So I'll introduce Sherry Steisen, who's got a short report prepared for us.
I do. Thank you so much, Dr. Maychuk. I'm going to actually come up and use the panel so you guys can see how it's used. It's great for presentations, as we've seen so far, but it's also interactive, and I just kind of want to show you some pieces of it. I'll be very quick. I'm actually going to set a timer for myself, and just to kind of show you, maybe I'll give myself 6 minutes. Just to kind of show you how teachers can use it in the classroom. And then the timer is going to run down there. So I want to go through really quickly what our current classroom technology situation is. It's very interesting. We have a mix of different classroom technologies across the district, and some classrooms just have a screen. That classroom has a screen sort of tacked up on the board. This classroom, this is very common to have a projector projecting onto the smart board. These are older smart boards. Some of them are still working, some of them are not working. This one just has a projector projecting onto it, so it's not being used as a smart board. This one is, this is a great option. This is an interactive Epson projector. However, it's kind of small, so you can't really see it, but the teacher can right next to it. This one, we had to put a pole there for stability. This classroom doesn't have any technology, and this is faded because this is very old technology. So we just kind of took a poll around the whole district and decided that we really, in order to engage students, we really need to update our classroom technology. So when I came to the district, I came from another school, and I had implemented these interactive flat panels in the school, and they were actually refreshing to new flat panels. So I had asked Dr. Thomas, Dr. Maychuk, if we could just purchase a couple and sprinkle them around the district just to see how they worked out. So we did that. So we have 16 around the district, and everybody loves these. The current technology just is frustrating for teachers and students. It's not very engaging. Restricted interactivity, projectors and smartboards are end of life, and it's inconsistent for the student experience because they go into one class and they can access technology, and they go into another class and they might not be able to access technology. So our future classroom technology, we really want to foster an environment where students are actively participating, they're exploring, they're absorbing knowledge, and this board, Dr. Thomas used and Dr. Kiefer used this at intermediate school for a couple of parent nights, and then we had to store it somewhere in between the parent nights, so I just wheeled it into the LC, and Lydia, she was like, "What is that?" And I said, "This is a flat panel. You're more than welcome to use it. We're just going to leave it in here anyway, just in the interim." And she was like, "Show me how to use it." So we just plugged it in, hooked her up, and she used it for the day. And then our rep could not come and pick it up. So after Dr. Thomas and Dr. Kiefer were finished, then I just asked her if she wanted to keep it in the library. And she was so excited to have it. We went in the library in the intermediate center is where one of our rescue centers is. So I frequently visit that rescue center. And so I went in there, and just to hear the excitement in the kids' voices was, I used to be a teacher, so I just love that. And so these are some pictures. This is the students are teaching other students how to use it. So this kid is up by the board, and everybody's engaged, and everybody wants to come up to the board, and everybody wants to use it. And I know it might kind of sound like, oh, this is a novelty, and the novelty will wear off. I worked in my last district, and we had them for 6 years, and the kids loved every minute of it. And then when we were refreshing, they were even more excited. So the novelty just didn't really wear off because it's a touchscreen, and they're used to that. Then this is just another picture of them being in the library, and without a teacher, they're just up at the board, and they're kind of working together and trying to figure out how to check out a book through the Destiny system. This board is installed at primary, and they're using the morning meeting. Using it during the morning meeting session. We have 9 flat panels installed at the primary building. We have 4 in the mono class and 4 in the dual language class. And I've heard from every teacher, and every time we go in just to check on how it's going, they are just raving about it, and the kids love it. And the students, you don't have to teach the kids how to use it; they just go up and use it. So this is a quote from Lydia, from the librarian. She's like, I just want to be there at the meeting, and she's like, I just want to tell them how amazing it is. So you guys can read that, but it's just about how students being engaged is so important, and that I feel like that's the first step in education, is when a student walks in the room and they're so excited to be engaged, and they can come up to the board. And this has 10 points of touch, so multiple students can be at the board working on it. And it just basically, it supports different learning styles, enhances visual learning, which is so important, promotes active learning, improves understanding, and then encourages collaboration. In the upper grades, you can share your screen to here. There's an acceptance little notification that comes on, so the teachers will have to accept the student sharing the screen, but that's how you can collaborate in the older grades as well as the younger grades. Student feedback. I loved this. The kids were so excited. So Lydia asked just for a little bit of feedback, just because she's had this like for a couple of weeks. And I just love that it helped me concentrate, since I never do. I liked the smart TV because it was really fun and it was just really cool. The board helped because it is a fun and creative way to learn, and it helps kids who aren't as comfortable with talking in the class. So a student wrote that. And it will make their learning experience more interactive. Darn it. The Smart TV is not only a fun way to learn, but it also teaches how to take turns, share, and interact with each other. And it is fun. It's fun. It's a touch screen, and it makes learning easy. So the kids were just so excited. And I had a couple videos that were taken too. And this one kid just basically like ran into the library. He's like, I love that thing. So it's just when you grab the kids' attention this way, it's just engaging right off the bat. So I just wanted to thank everybody, Dr. Maychuk, for allowing me to just kind of bring these boards into the district and encouraging the install of the boards. Mr. Brobeck for always being so nice when I go into his office and ask for more money, and supporting the boards. And then just the Board of Education for having me and for allowing us to move forward with this project too. Any questions?
I feel old. I remember like the smart boards were new, and I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah,
now we're told they're old.
Yeah.
So the kids can touch the screen with their hands, or you're using a stylus now. And
Yep. I can use, we can go back here, we can go home, and then there's a whiteboard option too, and the pen just is magnetized in the front. So there's this option too, where the kids can come up here and can write whatever they want, and you can have students, practicing and doing their work up here. This is a lot of teachers like the whiteboard space, so this is perfect for that. And then there is, let me see here. There are different different options too for the background for grids. So if you're a math teacher and you're teaching on grids, you can use the background. If you're teaching penmanship, you can use that grid. Wow. If you're, lots of different, if you're doing points or whatever, you can use the different grids. There are math tools here too. So if you're a math teacher, you can just use the math tool on the board. It is so awesome. And then also there are different inputs. So a lot of teachers have their document cameras just connected directly to the board. And then you can also use the board without we are connected wirelessly, which when I first came to the district, I asked teachers what their needs were, and I sent out a survey, and a lot of people said, I just want to be able to move around my classroom with my laptop. And so this provides that opportunity. So we're both on the same Wi-Fi network, and we're connected by that code. And so that when you connect with the code, like I said, the teacher has to accept you. So a student can't just be walking around and then connect to any board that they want. And then there's also, this is a demo board, but there's also a browser. And then you can just like, if you wanted to watch, like phonics videos or something right from here, you don't even have to be connected to your device. So it just provides students or teachers a lot of flexibility, and it's great. And student autonomy. I mean, this is a center. Kids can just come up here and teach each other. So there are a lot of opportunities with this board.
Is there a way to clean the screen, like
Yeah.
in between classes?
Yeah. So we have this cleaner called Whoosh that we use.
They have a specific
Yeah.
product, and
Yep.
kids are sticky.
Yes, they are. They sure are.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really like this because I think that it is a good way to help kids who learn in different ways learn, because it's not like one of my kids just really needs to be doing all the time, like touching, moving, something. And so I think from an inclusivity standpoint that this is a good thing, because not all kids can sit and look at the board like some kids really need to get up and do. So I like this.
Yeah, and it gives every child a voice, like that one student said, that it gives every child a voice. So if you're doing like a Kahoot or something, everybody can participate, and you don't have to be physically speaking in the room or something. It's just, it's great for everybody.
Is this the standard size?
This is a small one, just
Okay.
because it's a demo. So this is I think this is a 65 inch. So we are would like to order the 85 inch, so they're bigger. But also, I was sitting in the back and watching the presentations, and it was just clear as day. And when I'm watching the presentations from the projectors in the back, you can't really see. So that's part of the problem, within the classrooms too, is like a kid, if they're in the back, it's not clear, and so they might be, disengaged or something. But anyway, just to help enhance education and learning in the classroom.
Does it have a adjustable height?
This one does.
Okay.
We're going to mount most of them,
To
so
the
then
wall.
they'll just be mounted to the wall.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering about tipping and safety and
Yeah, so we don't, we're probably not going to purchase many,
base.
yeah, many carts, but yeah, they'll all be mounted to the wall.
And is there any concern for glare in the classroom?
No, it's like, it's pretty much anti-glare. You might be able to see like a little bit of something, but yeah, we did not have that problem in our old building, and they were in every classroom. We had a lot of windows in all the classrooms, so yeah.
Where's Corey? Oh, you don't have any technology questions? I can't believe this.
So what's the lifespan?
A lot, like 10 years, 10 to 12 years. Which, thank you for bringing. Well, in your board pack, where it was kind of the explanation of like the difference between the interactive flat panels and the projectors. But the projectors are going, the bulbs are going. We're like scouring Amazon for bulbs for the projectors. So that's that's part of the problem. But that memo will kind of explain why we really need to move.
It's very detailed and very helpful to
Oh,
see
good.
the contrast
Yeah.
in comparison.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you were navigating the base. I thought we had left you a minefield of backpacks and bags and things back here. All right. Item C on our reports is a written report on iReady Individualized Learning Path System. Dr. Thomas has provided us a memo and a quote for the iReady platform to support students requiring interventions to meet core standards. Is there anything else to add?
Only that Dr. Thomas took ill a little bit today, so he's not here to answer questions, but Dr. Kiefer may be able to answer questions if the board has them tonight. Or I can certainly pass them along to Steve, and he can send them back to you via email if you have them.
Any questions?
I just made a note to myself, how will you communicate the change to parents and what challenges do you anticipate?
And that was really the only question I had, is that, and it was mentioned in some of the documents, but that, you know, parents really expect the map data and, you know how to use it, and so I'm assuming there will be some kind of, you know, process of educating people about that.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kiefer, a Director of Teaching and Learning. So right now, last year, we spent about 5 months having teachers in both mono classrooms and dual language classrooms pilot these, and letters were sent home to parents notifying them that their students will be involved in the diagnostic assessments and also using iReady. So when we continue this, more information would go home to parents and let them know what we're using and the purpose for it, and kind of long-range plans for this. Especially in light of we're going to have iReady and MAP going on at the same time. Yes, absolutely, communication. Obstacles, you know, I think the biggest thing probably would be to find time in the RSIP and Teacher Institute days to train teachers to use this effectively, to make sure they understand diagnostics assessments and also how to use the different pathways, and making sure everything is implemented with integrity. The third one, I think Dr. Thomas also mentioned in his report, is if we do decide to transition from MAP to iReady as something that's long-term, that's something we'll have to discuss with the union, because it is tied to peer teacher evaluations. So it's tied to quite a few things that we have in our systems to begin with, but that's long-term. We'll have to have those discussions with various members of our Woodland community. Okay. Those are the three biggest ones I can think of right now.
All right. Any more questions?
That's all I have.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Vic.
And we'll move on to item D, Blue Point Security System. I'll let you introduce this one. We're revolving back and forth.
Sure. So, yeah, the Blue Point Security System is a security concept that Mr. Fuhrer brought with to Woodland from that he had used in his previous district in Highland Park, and we've actually did a lot of the beta testing with our ESC, our district office safety team, safety committee, and we actually went out to their call center and looked to see how they operate. And it basically this the Blue Point system works very much like the red fire alarm pole station that's on the wall in the back, except it would be blue to designate that it's Blue Point, hence the name, and it goes to the police rather than the fire department. And so I'm probably not doing its service, so John, feel free to jump in, but really the idea would be that if a student saw something or a staff member saw something going on outside, or recently there was a situation in a neighboring community where there was a concern that a former student may come back and want to say something or do something to someone, and we've had to go on soft lockdown when the either the sheriff's department or the police have said that there's something going on, like at Gurney Mills or in the community, right? And so the Blue Point system would be a way to very quickly alert everyone in the building that there's something, there's a threat outside, but it's not a fire, right? And so we could, the police would know it's tied into the department, rather than an audible alarm, it emits a light signal so that we wouldn't confuse it with the fire alarm. But yeah, it's another level of and a different type of security that I think would make all of our buildings safer and more secure, and really be a way to feel like we're proactively addressing a situation rather than being passive about it and hoping the bad guys don't get in. So, John, if you want to add a little bit more to it.
As Dr. Machek said, yes, it's an emergency alert system, and like the fire system does, the occupants know and the first responders know. Those are the two things you want to have happen instantaneously without having to make phone calls and push other buttons or do two-step processes. You want to be an instantaneous thing. So it does that. First responders will get notified, whoever's on our notification list, by their phones faster than they'll get dispatched. So everybody here will know of those events as well. a big backbone to this that isn't the stuff we see, like the pole stations that he mentioned or the blue lights, is the backbone behind the emergency response system that allows the command control center to communicate during this event right away. We don't have to call each other. We're all getting those same messages pushed out to us of what's happening, where it's happening. And that internal communication can start with the police, with our leadership. So all those things are happening faster. So the key thing with any of these events, unfortunately, is you want to stop them as soon as they start. And this allows that communication to take place as fast as we can do it. And it allows everybody to do it. And it allows 24-hour, 7-day-week coverage. So anybody using our facilities has that access to this after hours. It's not an alarm button at the front desk. That is only there when somebody's there at the front desk. It's there for the facilities. It's there for the community, anybody using the buildings.
I have a question. So, base level, red is fire, blue is police. What if it's a medical? Going back to high school, there was a student in our school who had epilepsy, so she would frequently have seizures. So I'm thinking, okay, if a student and the student with epilepsy were walking along and she starts having a seizure, would the student then have the option to pull the blue lever and notify, hey, we might need an ambulance?
You wouldn't want you to pull the blue, because the blue is strictly for the bad events. There is they are green for the medical. And those we have latitude, the entire system. Those we have a little more latitude of where and what we want that to do. Maybe at the school that has that particular child, they want to go to an internal team first before, and then they have the opportunity to call 911 instead of it going direct, because they know they may have a high risk of a high occurrence of an event that doesn't necessarily need the ambulance per se. So we have some control over that and how we want to manage that. And we may want just to go to the dispatch right away, because that's how the building wants to function, or the district wants to set those rules. But that we have a little more control.
Any more questions? I was thinking the same thing, like I said, Blue Point, and I thought Blue Cross Blue Shield, medical, health emergency. My first concern was, oh boy, if you pull the fire alarm, the firefighters show up. If you pull the blue alarm, the police are going to show up, and concerns about swatting and drawing resources. But I see that they addressed it in the information, that there's a locking mechanism, a tamper alert, and then will we know how many pull stations are there per building? Where are they located?
Yeah, it wasn't part of the report, just so it's not part of the public record. But yeah, they'll be mapped out within the facilities. This is not code, like fire code dictates the what and where for the pull stations for fire. We don't have to follow that per se. One of the things we learned in one of my prior lives is we had a special needs area. We put those things up a little higher so the adults could get to it, just because we had some active hands that wanted to keep playing with the blue box on the wall. So it just, you can work with that kind of thing and make that work so it's still there for the folks, but we can make those accommodations for our folks in the buildings. As well as the strobes. We can place strobes where we feel they give us the most bang for the buck. They're not required every 50 feet kind of thing.
So this is not for medical emergencies, like there's a basketball game and someone has a heart attack. You don't pull the blue
Not the blue
lever.
We would put a medical in that space,
Okay.
and they would pull the medical for that. Yes.
Okay.
If the blue gets pulled, it's not for there's a fight in the hallway. There's a situation that requires immediate responses.
So there'll be training for staff, and then there's also, it mentioned training for students, like this is what this is for, this is not for.
Yes.
any-
How in my past lives, we rolled it out was we made a classroom version of communication for them, so they could have it at the room level, so they could have that dialogue, as well as the staff training, so they could all. We did it in smaller groups because you could have a little more engagement. Because people want to ask questions about their part of the buildings, or I'm on the third floor, I want to talk about that, that kind of a thing. So yeah, there'll be training for that. It's going to be training for our renters or anybody who's using the building from the outside. We got to notify them of what to do and how to do it. I mean, it's unfortunate we have to have it, but to Dr. Maychek's point, provides the fastest communication to the people that are involved.
Thank you. The information was really thorough, and it addressed a lot of questions that I had, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jen.
So excited about this next one. Written information about reconfiguring the Oak Room for Board of Education meetings. Tell us about it, Dr. Check.
Yeah, so just the idea that I've had really since I started here with this setup of the tables, it's in my head, it's the difference between like setting up a paper as landscape versus portrait. And I think so my idea would be to sort of shift the board table to the longer wall, which does a number of things. First of all, I know the board, which I'm very grateful for, and I have to tell you, this is the first district I've worked in that's had this sort of mindset, but that the district administrative team is a team with the board, and I know there's been conversation about having district administration, since we're such an integral part of, bless you, the conversations at board meetings is to have everybody be able to be seated at table, right? And I think having more space would allow us to do that. The other thing that it does is it allows for more seating. And I'm not going to call this wasted. I don't know what the right term is, but it's not like wasted space, but it's certainly space you can't put chairs in because of where the U is. And if you had just tables along one side, I mean, in the mock-up I did, I set up 20 chairs just because I was tired of setting up anymore. But you could have put, there's room for 60 or 80, right? If you, and I know we've had different, we don't get that large of a crowd at board meetings always, but different things particularly towards the end of the year when we're honoring retirees or different student groups, where we'd like to have the community in, it would be nice to be able to fit more people comfortably. And I think just from a really a utilitarian standpoint, even tonight is a really good example. We've had so many really good presentations, but everyone sitting in front of the screen is getting up and moving. And if you had the tables reconfigured, I think it sets up a lot of options. First of all, I mean, rather than getting up and moving, maybe 2 or 3 people might have to turn their chairs. But the other option would be if you were oriented differently, with the flat panels that Sherry was discussing, there's an option to put like one here and then one on the other wall as well. Dr. Thomas had talked about maybe perhaps mounting one for the board to see like up above the door so that no one's got to move. I think the other thing is from a video for people watching the meeting in terms of engaging with the community, part of this transformation would be to purchase a new video camera, which we need anyway. It's kind of like with the flat panels, which is neat. This is really perfect timing for Sherry because as she showed the pictures, there are, even if we were to replace the current equipment with the same equipment, we have to buy new devices for ones that have stopped working. I think we need to buy a new video camera anyway for this room. But the idea would be that if the room was reconfigured, you could have a camera trained on that's probably the wrong word, a camera focused on the board and or a presenter, like for example during public comments. And then you can have another camera that would show what's being presented on the screen. And so somebody watching at home or on the website would be able to see much more accurately like you would if you were here in the room. So I just think, again, for a lot of reasons, it checks a lot of boxes in terms of engaging more community members, in terms of facilitating a more efficient meeting, and I think getting the right people, like literally at the table, this just makes a lot of sense, and I appreciate the opportunity to at least have the conversation with the board, because this is something that I've thought about, just that it would be a better setup, really since my first meeting here, so I'm glad that you're entertaining the idea.
I think this addresses a lot of issues, and it's more open, it's more welcoming. I mean, it even features the windows in the room, like brings out the architecture, and I just appreciate that you took the time to physically set it up in the room and show us that it worked. So thank you for taking the time to do that.
Sure.
I mean, one thing you didn't point out that is also a benefit is anytime someone comes in or leaves, it's right in line with the podium. So it can be a visual distraction for us sitting here, but with this new setup, people can come and exit as they see fit without interrupting what's going on with the presentations. And I'm ecstatic about the option that people at home can see the presentations, because right now they can't until after they're presented. It's like, well, if you're already streaming, then you have to go and rewatch it with the presentation. So I'm very excited for that, to get more people to see from home what's happening here.
And I think when people are presenting or we have a group join up here, you're almost like cut out of view where the camera is. So hopefully this will fix all that.
Yes, I agree with all of that. I'm excited about this. I think it's gonna be good, and anything that, to your point, engages more people at home, I love. So, any more questions, comments? Do you want us to? Is this like an action item we need to do, or
I think,
consensus?
well, there's a consensus to move forward. What I would come back with next, well, it wouldn't require board approval, but the next step would be to actually purchase the new camera. And so I don't know in terms of ordering it when it comes in, but certainly we can move forward to making this change as soon as we could get the new video camera.
Okay.
I know Sherry had called a vendor, and we're supposed to get a quote anytime, any day now. So I will certainly let you know what that quote comes in at.
Okay. It sounds like, do we have consensus? It sounds like we do.
Great. Thank you. That's exciting.
All right.
I don't really fancy myself a designer, but this is kind of an exciting thing for me. This is different. No one has ever asked me to redesign anybody's room. So this is fun.
The next item is the written report on the FY24 school maintenance grant.
I would defer to Mr. Bobek on this one.
Okay.
This grant, Illinois State Board of Education releases it every once in a while. It's actually back-to-back years. Before that, it was in 2020, and then it might have been 2014 before they released the last maintenance grant. It's a matching grant. It does not matter the size or scope of the project in the district. They'll match up to $50,000. So in order to take advantage of it, you just want to have a project that's up to $100,000. We have several projects that would qualify for this grant. So what we're going to do is go ahead and select one of those projects. In the report, I talked about doing doors at elementary. And I don't think John probably ever saw somebody's jaw drop so fast when I heard how expensive doors are. Doors are very, very expensive. So we were going to attach that to this project. What we would have to do next month, it does require board approval. It does require us earmarking those funds for this specific project, and then we can go ahead and get started on that. The way this one works is that they automatically give you a check for $50,000 if you're approved, and then you have 2 years to spend it. So.
Are these interior doors or exterior or security doors?
The
fire
exterior doors.
Exterior doors, okay.
Some free money for projects we were going to do anyway is a win-win.
I've always looked at the maintenance grants as, well, yeah, they're maintenance, and you've got maintenance, 1 million square feet, so, yeah, we go for it every time. And now, it's not guaranteed that you get the grant. There's a certain dollar amount, and it is based off of, like, you know, life safety, and there's a kind of a hierarchy that they go to, so we're putting this one in safety and security.
Okay. Any questions? All right. The next item, item G, is written information on truth and taxation notice. And this is something that we do every year. It has to be done within the legal guidelines prior to the November tax levy hearing. Chris, I'm assuming this is you. Can you tell us about this?
So, yeah, the November tax levy hearing obviously takes place November 16th this year. Prior to that, we have to have legal notice published if we're going to be requesting greater than 5%, and with CPI being 6.5%. The request will be greater than 5%. So they give you these legal guidelines that you have to follow, one of them being that you have to post this truth and taxation notice, which we take to the board approves, and then we post it within the guidelines, which is between 7 and 14 days of the actual levy hearing itself. So that'll be on for an action item next time, as well as the initial levy presentation.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you very much. And I have a feeling the next thing is Mr. Bolbeck as well, IMRF salary and benefits report.
This is just annual requirement that we have to do. Comes right out of school code. It's within 6 days of accepting the budget or approving the budget. You have to have a posting for, there's two postings. One's the Opens Meetings Act. It's IMRF amounts over $75,000, as well as administrator and teacher salaries. It's every year thing. So this report covers what we need to go through, and we'll have this posted on the website tomorrow.
All right. Any questions? Thank you very much. Item I is written information on revised board policies. We met policy committee on September 14th, and I think these were pretty much press recommendations having to do with concussions and head injuries. Any questions about those? All right.
Yes, I have a
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Carla.
Yes, I had concerns on policy 4:170. Looks like we're taking a lot out of the policy, and I don't see where it's coming back in. So I'm really concerned, for instance, about the annual inspection for all facilities for security weakness. Are we no longer going to do that, or is it going to be at the discretion of whoever's in charge? But there doesn't seem to be an alternative in the policy.
My memory is that it's basically now, the policy now refers to an entire law, right? Was that the one?
Right, yeah, I mean, we do have, we're required to do a security lockdown, at least one with police involvement, and so certainly some of that information in that sentence is captured there. We also have a crisis plan that on page 2 of 8, the crisis plan that was stricken. When we do still have a crisis plan, it's just these items have been moved to other policies and procedures, but we're still certainly have crisis plans and emergency plans. As you mentioned on page 3 of 8, they've stricken the sex offender notification laws, but we certainly have them. The whole FACE law, right? It just came into law in August, addresses a number of these items. So. I don't know how else to respond. We're still doing these things. They've just moved them around, or.
And I think
I'm sorry, where did you say the crisis plan will be in policy? The crisis plan, the emergency plan, the requirement to do a drill, where will that be?
I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know the number for the policy that requires us to do these. It's actually a law that requires us to hold. It's the same law that requires us to have bus evacuation drills and fire drills and tornado drills. So I can get that, pull that policy for you and share it with the board. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful because obviously, we have state law, but we have board policy, which is considered local school board law, right? It's how the school board operates. I'm just concerned if we're losing some of the requirements for an annual drill, it may not happen.
Okay.
It'll still be in there, Dr. Majek. It'll still be in 4:170. We just moved to updated language. That was the one we reviewed this afternoon. So all the language will remain, we just updated it to match our new plan.
Okay.
All right. Any more questions on these policies?
So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding, because we've certainly, administratively, we've talked about procedure. We would not have updated policy. That's the policy committee's role, so.
We were working on the AP.
Right.
That's associated with that.
Correct. So certainly next month, if they're taking all this out, what we can share with you next month is what the revision looks like. Is that how, if that will suffice? I mean, certainly then, clearly you wouldn't approve or take action on it until the following month, but at least you could see what's instead of this, and perhaps that would be helpful. But Dr. Little, I assure you, I don't want anything that we're doing in terms of drills and practices to keep everybody safe. We're not getting rid of any of them, and if anything, we're adding more. So
On page 5, there is an annual
Well, keep
review.
in mind, the policy is not for you individually as a superintendent. It's for any and everybody, board superintendent, to come. So we write the policy for everybody, not just for one person
I'm
or
sorry.
one board.
Understood.
What was that, page 5?
Page 5 of 8. There is still verbiage, annual review.
Okay.
So there's a paragraph that says, "We will annually review each school building's emergency operations and crisis response plans, protocols and procedures, et cetera, et cetera."
I see.
We'll bring it back with what it looks like revised without all the strike-throughs, and then you can compare.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right, the next item is receipt of Freedom of Information Act requests. Chris?
A couple FOIAs to go over. We have a FOIA from Christopher Crittenbrink, received on 8/28, 295, responded by 9/5, requesting the following information. District 50 transportation standards for bus stop selection and in all communication regarding the change of bus stops for the St. Gilbert's route from Sunshine and Lake to Grant and Sunshine. Any and all communication regarding the bus stops at Lake and Sunshine, Grant and Sunshine for any within District 50 bus routes. To further clarify, pursuant to below, provide email or other correspondence January 2023 to present. Next one we've got is by Janine Asmus. Date received was 9/11. It's due on 9/18. We responded on 9/18. The requester wanted to know each and every district employee was certified as a school librarian, meaning they have the school library licensure and/or endorsement in library media, and is currently working in that capacity in our district's libraries and/or media centers. They clarified what a librarian could also be referred as. Those were the two that I had.
All right. Thank you very much. Sorry, give me just a sec. Any questions about the FOIA requests? All right, we'll move on to board improvement and operations. Does anybody have any announcements or committee reports to share?
I have 2. We'll do the PTA. They met a week ago. Financials are good. 3 of the 4 book fairs went really well. Middle school is having theirs at the end of October. A reminder about the second Tuesday restaurant fundraisers. So the next one will be October 10th at Mod Pizza, and it's 20 or 25% of sales for the whole day. So there's not a time frame. The Signature Chocolate Fundraiser, which is one of the PTA's biggest fundraisers, has started, and it goes through the 11th of October. The pickup is in November. Dunk Fest is coming up, so that's a 3-on-3 basketball tournament geared towards our older students, so it's 3rd through 8th graders. But I did learn this year that it's not just Woodland students that can enter. It could be 56, it could be homeschool students, it could be anybody. It doesn't have to be Woodland to participate. And the next meeting is the 12th of October at 7 p.m. via Zoom. And then Woodland Foundation We haven't had a recent meeting, but the board has been working. So we are in good standing. We're working on getting back taxes filed through the Secretary of State. Almost all of the liaisons, like, I'm the board liaison, different school liaisons are in place. There's a bunch of boxes that were located here. Those have been picked up and they're being gone through. They're getting a logo done. They're working on updating the grant forms that teachers would submit to request funds and updating the bylaws. So nothing real active in terms of meetings, but they're getting all the background stuff set.
Awesome. Very good. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else have committee reports or announcements? The next item is board improvements, status requests, and future board items. And I was going to ask Dr. Maychuk, do we want to add as a future board item about the issue about using the hearing officer?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we actually have another parent who wants to challenge a disciplinary consequence, and the board has the authority to assign a hearing officer, but administration does not have that authority. And so one of the things that I talked to Anna about was having a discussion as to whether the board would like to retain a hearing officer or not for such matters, as opposed to hearing the issue in one meeting. And the benefit is for the family making the request is, so like now there was a request came in yesterday or the day before, and it won't be heard until the October meeting, because that's when you all get together with a hearing officer, get all the information and have it ready for the board to talk about at the next meeting. It's just kind of is a little more expeditious for everyone involved, but that'd be something that if you want to put on as a discussion item next month, we could certainly talk about.
Okay, I think so. So it would be basically, we would receive the same kind of report that we received from this most recent
Correct.
one. Instead of if you were here for the previous one that we did where the board held the hearing ourselves. So it's just kind of a different way of doing things that might make things happen a little quicker and, than like exactly what happened this time where it ends up being more than a month before that happens. So yeah, I think we could do that. Any other requests for future board items?
I don't know, did anyone want to circle back to the meeting at Prairie Crossing?
Oh, yes. Yes, we could do that. You go for it.
So the Illinois school, the ISBE, Illinois School Board group actually facilitates the Prairie Crossing Charter, and the Prairie Crossing Charter is up for renewal. And so one of the things that the Board of Education, State Board of Education did voluntarily was to hold a open, like a town hall communication, and you could sign up and speak and pro, con, or whatever your concerns were. If you opposed renewing the charter, you could speak why it was a great idea to approve it. And there were, so that was this afternoon at 4:30 at Prairie Crossing Charter School. It was facilitated by whatever his exact title is, he's in charge of all the state charter schools. And so Anna attended, Carla attended, and Chris and I attended. Chris and Anna spoke on the district's behalf. Our colleagues from Fremont, who also impacted financially from the way that Prairie Crossing is funded. The superintendent, business manager from Fremont 79 were also in attendance in that meeting and shared a comment. And the issue has nothing to do with the quality of the school or the people in it. It sounds like a wonderful program and really a great alternative for many families. But the issue, as Chris spoke to not only tonight at our meeting, but also are very clearly articulated this afternoon during the 3 minutes we were given to talk, is just the funding formula for charter schools runs 180 degrees different than the way that our public schools are funded. And, you know, to have you've got a district that has almost 5,000 kids getting hundreds of thousands of dollars less in state funding than a school that's got 392 children. I mean, it is not equitable. And, you know, some of the rules by which Prairie Crossing is to be playing is one of the tenets of the charter is that their school demographic mirrors ours, and it doesn't. And the reason why that is so important is that because, and rightly so, state funding follows our neediest children. And so when we've got students who require adaptive assistant or additional personnel or additional resources in the classroom, that's where that money is designed to go. And the concept of this funding is a moral one and a good one, but in practice, it's not working out that way. And that was our only ask. It wasn't about closing down the school. Wasn't about changing anything that they're trying to do. All we asked the state was, could we revisit how these schools are the charter school district and our district are relatively funded, because it is nowhere near equitable. And I know a neighboring district shared a similar statistic where they have 2% of their students attend the charter school and 30% of their funding goes with those 2% of students. And there's something mathematically that's not right. So that was our ask. And not sure what the next step is there. There is an opportunity to provide written comments until October 12th. And so we'll certainly kind of get the word out and see if we can do a letter writing or email our legislators about it. But I'm not sure when the vote for renewal comes up. Do you know that?
They typically share that with us a little bit later, a little bit closer to the vote. If I remember correctly from 5 years ago, it's not something that we had anticipated well in advance. It was in Chicago, the actual vote. It's a slightly different forum. You do get the opportunity to speak. You do give the opportunity to provide public comment. You'll actually get to watch the group of individuals discuss, and then they'll turn around and they'll vote, and you'll have a decision that day. So it's slightly different, but I would anticipate it before the end of the calendar year.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was digging for, was that email address. I was going to say I'll send that out. Hopefully somebody got it. We have until October 12th or something to do that.
So if I'm remembering correctly, it actually happened in October 5 years ago. Somewhere around there. This was 5 years ago. At the forum, they did use cards as timers. I just want everybody to know that I am not the only one who's ever had to use cards. So it's public comment timers.
Any more future board items? All right.
Yeah, I had a question about the Prairie Crossing. When is the next state board meeting?
That we're not sure at the moment.
They mentioned, I don't know if they mentioned October, they're going to have a meeting and then the vote in November.
Was that stated at the end of the meeting today?
Yes.
Oh, so you were there at the end. Okay. Yeah.
So
to get here for close.
We were notified on
I didn't know if you received anything in writing when the next meeting was.
Nothing in writing. We actually received notification of today's meeting on Monday.
Monday afternoon.
So, they didn't provide lots of advance notice.
Yeah, so it sounds like the next series of meetings where they're presenting their findings to the state superintendent will be in Springfield. And I got the impression, but no date, that it was going to be October, and the presentation, the report, and then the vote would be in November. But if you can confirm that, that would be good.
Sure.
Then there was an opportunity to provide written comments. I think you guys mentioned that to the charter renewal at isbe.net email address. One thing they did stress is do not send form letters, so don't write a letter and then ask all your friends to send it. They said quantity is not what they're looking for. They're looking for actual, discussion of the merits. So I think if we could put together some type of, what are the facts, how this is negatively affecting Woodland, and ask people to send an email based on their analysis of that, I think would be more beneficial. But my question too is in terms of how they are meeting the charter school requirement for renewal. That wasn't clear that that was done, and also, like you said, it's a funding issue. So I think we have two issues from a Woodland perspective. And, really we're asking not that the school be disbanded, but that if the state will authorize a charter school, that they would authorize that charter school off the top of state funding versus pulling from the evidence-based funding, which really doesn't have a criteria for charter schools. And Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, not for charter schools. They use a flat per capita tuition formula, which pretty much, there's no such thing as evidence-based funding when you use that formula. It's an archaic formula.
Right. Yeah, it seems contrary to evidence-based funding to me, right? Or am I wrong?
No, you're right.
It absolutely is.
Okay. Yeah, so I think we just got to get that message out there and maybe send some, have parents, and not parents, but the community, because let's face it, 70% of our community is don't have children in the school. But everybody's affected by these taxes. I think it's demonstrated by this last tax bill. So I just think we got to get the word out there that this is detrimental to taxpayers investing in public education. And I'm happy that they're, you did a really good, warm sense of the community at Prairie Crossing. Don't want to take that away, but is it to the benefit of the total community? And, is it best for the taxpayers' dollars?
While you were talking, Dr. Little, I pulled up the notice from Dr. Turovitz that told us about this meeting. The end of it, he says that it's anticipated that ISBE will vote on the Prairie Crossing renewal application at its December 13th meeting.
Okay. So he mentioned 2 meetings in Springfield, so they're going to vote in December. When's the first meeting where they introduce it? Does it say?
Yeah, not in the correspondence I have, but I can certainly reach out to him tomorrow.
Okay, because they said that was another opportunity to provide public comment.
Okay.
All right. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the status of correspondence, and I apologize. I didn't realize that this, the one email we did receive didn't ask for a response, so I'm sorry. That was my mistake. But I think continuing to draft them and have them for the board to look at is good. Yeah. Finally, we have another citizen statement period. Is there anybody signed up? No? Okay, and I don't think we have any need to return to closed session, right? All right, so can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second.
Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Renee? Brianna?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Gary? Carla?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.